Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Before we jump into the article, I'd like to take a minute to recognize the most amazing woman on the whole entire planet, my soulmate, Carrie. Today is her birthday. And for those of you who have been listening to the podcast, you know that Carrie is quite the warrior. She not only battled breast cancer, but she kicked its ass. And when I say kicked its ass, I mean an absolute beatdown. I've never been more in awe of a human being than I was watching my girlfriend day in and day out fight the most heinous disease on the planet. And not only did she fight through it, while she was going through chemotherapy, she was also studying to become a personal trainer. She didn't let the cancer get in the way. She didn't play the woe is me ever. She stood up, she bit down on her mouthpiece, and she kicked the living shit out of cancer. So when I tell you that I'm in love with a real life superhero, I am not kidding, folks. My girlfriend is literally the most amazing person I have ever met in my life. And without her support and without her backing, there is no way I could spend as much time as I do with this case. So if you guys get a chance today and you see her on Twitter, make sure you give her some love, because let me tell you what, if anyone has ever deserved to have a happy birthday, if anyone has ever deserved to have nothing but happiness in their life moving forward, it is my amazing soulmate. Carrie, I love you and happy birthday. All right, folks, so let's start talking about the article today. We're going to talk about Ehud Barak, all right? And I'm going to do a series of articles on this scumbag, and we're going to put the spotlight directly on him. Because let me tell you what, folks, it's starting to begin. These people are starting to eat their own. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with an article from 2019. It was published in July 15th of 2019. So we're going to start with this article, and I'm going to do a couple of segments today, maybe even three segments today on Ehud Barak. But we're going to start by these older articles, adding some context, and then what we'll do is we'll read the newest article from the Jerusalem Post that came out today, later on tonight. All right, so, like I said, this article is from the Daily Beast. The author of the article, Noga Tarnopolsky. Headline, Ehud Barak. I visited Epstein's Island, but I never met any girls. Yeah, okay, I went to the baseball game, but I didn't have any hot dogs. Give me a break. Does anyone buy this stuff? I mean, this guy is, we're talking about a high-profile politician here, folks. If you're not familiar with Israel and with what goes on over there, Ehud Barak is about as high up the chain as it goes. This is a man who is locked in, not only to Israel as far as politics goes, but as well as military intelligence and the Mossad. The arrest last week of wealthy financier, pedophile, and sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein has resonated in Israel because of his mysterious but well-known ties to former Prime Minister Ehud Barak, who announced a new bid for office last week and whose name appeared in Epstein's infamous Black Book of Prominent Guests. Now, you see what's going on here, folks? In Israel, you have Netanyahu and Ehud Barak, who were battling it out for the presidency. Both guys have tarnish on them. Both guys aren't great human beings if the stories in the public will tell it. And then you take a look at America, and we have the same thing going on here. Joe Biden is being credibly accused of sexual assault, for Lord's sake. Nobody's talking about it. The guy's MIA, hiding in a bunker or something. We haven't seen him. This is the man that wants to be the president. He doesn't even come forward and show any leadership. Then you flip over to Donald Trump, and he's too busy twittering and tweeting, and talking shit to step in and be a leader here. So we're devoid of a lot of leadership, and it's not just in America. It's all over the world. Everywhere you look, These countries are dying for leaders that will step into these voids and really do the job correctly. Instead, we get liars and crooks and basically supervillains all throughout the world. And I don't know about you folks, but I'm tired of it. The news could not have come at a better time for current Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is facing a tough re-election campaign after failing to form a government following elections in April, throwing the country into an unprecedented second consecutive electoral campaign. And that's all of the internal politics of Israel. They had a very contentious election. And when you get elected in Israel, you have to form a coalition government. And if you can't form that government, well, all sorts of things occur afterwards. And that's what we saw in Israel. Netanyahu had won, but he was not able to form the group that would rule, right? He couldn't mend those fences, and it was a bridge too far, basically. So he wasn't able to consolidate power, and they had to go through it all over again. But the big point here is that Ehud Barak, who is credibly accused by Virginia Roberts of taking part in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring, was about to become the prime minister, in Israel. That's how sordid and twisted the world is right now. Netanyahu, who has been in office for 10 years, is expected to be indicted on 3 counts of corruption after a hearing scheduled for October 7th, less than 3 weeks after the September 17th vote. And he has faced an uphill struggle, making accusations against his rivals stick. In June, Netanyahu's attempts to taint hardline former defense minister Avigdor Lieberman as a left-winger provoked laughter from reporters. So he wasted no time after Epstein's arrest tweeting a published article about Barak's alleged financial ties to Epstein, adding ominously, "and the media is silent." Well, Netanyahu didn't even go far enough. Netanyahu didn't even drop the most serious of allegations on Barak. And those allegations, we know, are the ones made by Virginia Roberts. I don't understand why everybody is scared to talk about the truth. This is all information that's been out there, folks. This is all information from court documents that has been either leaked or released to the public. So for anyone to act like they had no idea that Ehud Barak was up to some smarmy-ass shit with Jeffrey Epstein, well, I'll straight up say it. You're a liar. 2 days later, Netanyahu tweeted a video juxtaposing Epstein's mugshot with a 2016 photograph of Barak exiting Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. This time, the caption was, "What else did the sex offender give Ehud Barak?" Look, do you really think Netanyahu cares about the survivors? Do you really think he cares about the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? Or do you think he was just trying to wield this as a political cudgel and play tribalistic politics? We all know the score, right? Because Netanyahu isn't a good guy either. The answer, if you ask Barak, who served as prime minister from 1999 to 2001, is an unalloyed nothing. In an exclusive interview, Barak told the Daily Beast his dealings with Epstein were entirely on the level. And we know that's not the case, right? And again, that's why we're doing this article and this series of articles on Ehud Barak. I want to add context before we get to the new article from the Jerusalem Post and the new revelations of his battle with Dershowitz. So this will add some context and some meat on the bone for those of you who might not be familiar with Ehud Barak. The man who introduced me to Epstein about 17 years ago was Shimon Peres, another prime minister of Israel, another high-flying power player in Israel. Folks, I know it's uncomfortable for some people to accept, but Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, all of these people that are involved in this situation have heavy ties to the Israeli intelligence apparatus network. It's just a fact, folks. Barak said, uncertain if the event took place in New York or Washington, but recalling it was at an event where there were many famous and important people, including, if I recall, both Clintons and hundreds of others. So what he's trying to do here is frame it as, well, there was other famous rich people there, other famous politicians, so why are you singling me out? Meanwhile, this is like Jeffrey Dahmer saying, well, John Wayne Gacy was there, and so was Dennis Rader. So what do you mean? What's the big deal that I was there? Using the Clintons as a shield and as some sort of moral shield is not a good idea, okay? They are just as scummy as you, if not worse. Since then, Barak says he has met Epstein more than 10 times, and much less than 100 times. But I can't tell you exactly how many. I don't keep count. Over the years, I've seen him on occasion. More than 10 times, but less than 100. Could you be any more vague? And furthermore, you don't keep a record of the people you meet? Your security detail doesn't have a record of that? I'm sure you're still being protected by the Mossad. I'm sure you're still being protected by Israeli's version of the Secret Service. So don't act like you don't have a record. Don't act like you don't know how many times you associated with or broke bread with Jeffrey Epstein. Because, sir, we are going to call you a liar. I've never attended a party with him, Barak told the Daily Beast. I never met Epstein in the company of women or young girls. That is an absolute lie. Everywhere Epstein went, the core four followed. Okay? The core four, at the very least, were everywhere with Epstein. So for Barak to say he never had met Epstein in the company of women or young girls, that, my friend, is also a lie. This guy's trying to give Joe Exotic of the royal family a run for his money with the lies here, huh? Good job, Mr. Barak. You certainly are a solid individual. Barak recalls having visited Epstein at 2 of his Manhattan residences, and he said he did visit Epstein's private Caribbean island, once for several hours, and years after the publications about sex parties or orgies there. But Barak says, I've never been there at a party. Several hours, huh? So you're just flying into the Caribbean for several hours. Makes sense. Just like old Dirty Dershie only went to Zorro Ranch for an hour. Do they really believe they really think people are going to believe this? Because I know I don't. And I certainly know all of you out there who send me emails and who I talk to on a daily basis don't believe him. So I don't really know who he thinks is going to believe him here. I have news for you folks. Ehud Barak is in serious jeopardy. This man is in serious jeopardy, serious legal jeopardy right now. Barak recalls having visited Epstein. To the contrary, Barak says, at his home, I met many very respected people, scientists, Nobel Prize winners, and I met him also in Boston at MIT or the Harvard labs he supports. Now, folks, going back and reading this all in hindsight, with the benefit of history on our side, and Monday morning quarterbacking this, could he bring up any more scummy individuals to try and use as an alibi? Oh, you were there with respected people, huh? Scientists? Like who? Marvin Minsky? Lawrence Krauss? Joy Ito? Who are these respected scientists? Because from where I'm sitting, there aren't many of those left. And then he says, I met him also in Boston at MIT or the Harvard labs he supports. So what you're telling me is you were hanging out on campus with a pedophile at the labs that were provided to him by these so-called fantastic upper crust institutions where the leaders of tomorrow come to be schooled. That's what you're telling me, right? You were hanging out on these campuses, dicking around with a pedophile. Cool, Ehud Barak. We're just going to give you a pass for that. Said nobody ever. My friend, this is what we call an evisceration on the Jeffrey Epstein show. You're up, my guy. At these events, Barak says he unequivocally never met any women or girls. Oh, yeah, okay. You were on a college campus that is filled with young girls, young ladies, young women, I should say, not young girls, but young women. And you never met any women, huh? Never met any girls, huh? This guy is an absolute liar. Asked if any compromising pictures of him could yet surface, he responded, "There is no chance whatsoever." Well, that means yep, there's a dossier on him as well. And is that dossier in the hands of Ghislaine Maxwell? I don't know. Did the FBI grab that dossier? I don't know. Did the other members of the mega group take that dossier? Are they in possession of it? I don't know. Most Israelis first heard of Epstein in January 2016 when the British tabloid The Daily Mail published paparazzi-style pictures taken over an icy weekend stakeout headlined. The busy life of Jeffrey Epstein, group of gorgeous Manhattan it girls in and out of the billionaire sex offender's mansion before Clinton pal flies off in private jet with comely brunette. And this is a lie. So you're telling me Israel doesn't have access to the news? Israel didn't know that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested the first time around, the Israeli people? I think you're selling the Israeli people a little short here. My criticisms of Israel fall squarely on the back of the Israeli government and their intelligence services. The Israeli people are just like anyone else, folks. They just want to live their lives, feed their kids, not worry about getting blown up, not worry about having a pedophile as their prime minister, basic shit. But the government of Israel, the intelligence services of Israel, oh yeah, they got their fingers in all sorts of pies, just like the biggest scumbags of them all, the CIA. Buried in the article was a picture of Barak captioned, "An unidentified man," with his own security detail at Jeffrey Epstein's New York mansion. And there, again, he doesn't know how many times he met Epstein, but he has a security detail, right? Nobody believes that. Go back and check the records. Let's see the receipts. Israelis who saw the item laughed at the former prime minister, almost invisible in a large puffy coat and oversized Russian-style fur hat. Yeah, look, that's the way these kind of people operate, right? They think they're bigger than life. They think that they're more important than us. They think they're bigger than life. And why not dress like a pimp from the 70s if you're Ehud Barak, right? You basically are anyway. You're basically a pimp anyway, Mr. Barak. You might as well dress like one. "It is me in the picture," he acknowledges. "It was so cold, the Middle Easterner had to put on a hat. I was there for lunch or chat, nothing else. So what?" And you see the way they get indignant, and then they try and use a little joke. "Oh, the Middle Easterner had to put on a hat." What does that even mean? No, you were dressed like a Russian oligarch, okay? Take it easy. Barak has taken a humorously magnanimous approach in response to Netanyahu's online taunts. "It pains me to hear that people I know are in trouble with the law," he posted in one tweet. "First Netanyahu, now Epstein. My wish for them is that the truth will out, period." So this guy has the audacity to hop on Twitter and tweet like he is crystal clear here, clean as the day is long. He has nothing to do with any of this. Let me take a shot at Netanyahu. Oh, I'll take a shot at Epstein too to try and distance myself further. Meanwhile, we all know the score. We've all been keeping track, and we know that Ehud Barak is a huge part of what was happening at Epstein's pad. In a later tweet posted after Netanyahu's Likud party called on the Attorney General to open a probe into Barak's personal and business ties with Epstein, he said, "No need to investigate. I confess. I gave a second chance both to Jeffrey and to Bibi. They are now both drowning in criminality." This guy has some stones on him. The Barakayons on this guy. All right? Everything that comes out of this dude's mouth is fugazi. Most of the queries into Barak's ties to Epstein focus on financial dealings that are now coming to light. And while that's important to establish RICO, those financial transactions are very important, especially if there are funky transactions to be found, right? If they're laundering money or transactions aren't marked down correctly, whatever it may be, this is a huge part of the RICO case, and it's very important that forensic accountants are doing their job here. Last year, an Israeli investigative journalist revealed that in 2004, Barak received about $2.4 million earmarked research from the Wexner Foundation, an American philanthropy with which Epstein was long associated, that focuses on developing leadership skills among young Israeli and American Jewish citizens deemed to have potential. Billionaire Les Wexner is Epstein's only known client. So $2.4 million from the Wexner Foundation. That was probably, look, I don't have the evidence to back this statement up, right? But from everything we know, that money was probably funneled illegally by Jeffrey Epstein through this foundation, and I'm sure most of it found its way to Barak's pocket. Barak says he does not know if Epstein had any connection to the grant or payment he received, and in several past interviews has refused to explain what he was compensated for. Of course he refused, because he can't explain it. This is more money from Epstein to another high-profile person as another, hey, look what I can do for you. I can massage your back, buddy. What's up? And it's the same MO we've seen over and over again. I did what I committed to do, he told the Daily Beast, adding that he does recall the details of the contract, but he believes he is not supposed to discuss it. Oh yeah, okay. This high-profile man, former Prime Minister of Israel, man locked in with military intelligence, a man locked in with the Mossad, can't discuss a business dealing he had with Jeffrey Epstein and Les Wexner? Yeah, that makes sense. All of that makes a whole lot of sense, huh? I perform research and geopolitical consulting for a lot of interested parties, says the former minister and decorated former chief of staff of Israel's army, who is now 77 years old. It is up to them if they want to discuss it. So you're doing geopolitical consulting for Jeffrey Epstein and Les Wexner? For what reason? What country do they run? Well, I know Les Wexner is the king of Columbus, Ohio, and he runs it like his own fiefdom, but besides that, what kind of geopolitical advice are you giving these two disgusting morons? The Wexner Foundation has declined numerous media requests to provide any explanation for the 2004 payment. Of course they did. The Wexner Foundation is up to their neck in criminal financial dealings. All right? Point blank, period. That is my opinion. A forensic accountant needs to completely and utterly audit them. Last week, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz revealed that Epstein was a principal investor in Carbine, a video streaming and geolocation software startup founded by Barak in 2015. Oh yeah, I don't know what the $2.4 million was for, though. Bah! How much did Epstein put up for Carbine? How much of that money was made from ill-gotten gains? Now that money was transferred to Carbine and the funds were proven to be ill-gotten, well, now Carbine is also part of the RICO indictment. Funny how that works, huh? The extent of Epstein's financial involvement has not been made public, and Barak has since said he is exploring avenues to disassociate himself from Epstein completely. Really? You're gonna disassociate himself from Epstein completely? Well, that's never going to happen, considering you're being credibly accused by Virginia Roberts of partaking in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. Add to that all of your obvious financial crimes, and my guy, the party is just starting for you. So my advice is, go home, put on your dance shoes, because we're about to play your song. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the other good stuff, the link to the GoFundMe, the link to the article, you will be able to find in the description box. To everybody who has donated to the GoFundMe, thank you very much. All right, everybody, we'll be back later on with a little bit more.